Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? This one is for all of you runners or aspiring runners out there listening who maybe have gotten that crazy idea in your head that you want to run a half marathon. Spoiler alert, you absolutely can. Lots of people like to talk to me about running because they know that's one of my biggest passions in life, and I eat it up. You guys know I could talk about running all day, every day. I love it so much. And lots of people ask me for advice on running, or they say, oh my gosh, I could never run that many miles. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. If you want to, you can. You can run a half marathon. You just have to decide that's something you want to do. And you have to be fully committed to that goal for yourself. You can't shame your way into it. You can't hate your body into it. You have to decide you want to do this thing for you to empower yourself and to feel and get stronger. So I am no expert on this topic. However, I am quite experienced in distance running. I have lost track of the number of half marathons I've run. I have a spreadsheet somewhere. I could look it up. But if you want to run a half marathon, if you have been looking for a sign or a push or some motivation or some information, then this is the episode for you. And if you don't, absolutely zero shame. You find your own goal that lights you up, that makes you excited. There are plenty of things that I have zero interest in doing, even in the health and fitness world. And I know that, and that's okay. Everyone has different interests. But if yours happens to be some sort of curiosity for a half, this is that episode. If it's not, you can skip this. Or maybe you listen because you're curious, or maybe you share it with a friend who's been thinking about running one. But let's dig into some advice, shall we? Okay, I ran my very first half in 2014. It was the beginning of my sophomore year of college, and I do not remember why I got in my head that I wanted to do this. I had run a couple of 5Ks years prior, and honestly, they were terrible. But I don't remember how I got this goal in my head, but I decided I wanted to do it. And so here are some of the things that helped me with that first one and have helped me in many, many subsequent half marathons since then. Hopefully you can learn from my advice and my many mistakes along the way. So starting off, make a plan. Educate yourself. Do some Googling. Do some research. Be mindful of what sources you're utilizing. But there are millions of plans out there to help you train for a half marathon. Now, start small. Don't go crazy and go all in right from day one. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for burnout. That is a recipe for injury. So look for a plan. Runner's World has a million different versions, so that could be a good place to start. If you want some personal advice, you can always message me on Instagram at Health by Haven. I'm more than happy to chat all things running with you guys, but find some sort of plan or framework. Typically, they're between 12 and 18 weeks. Be realistic with yourself. Recognize where your base fitness is. Are you already running? Then maybe you can pick up, with a couple of miles as your first run. If you don't run at all right now, maybe you start with some sort of couch to 5K plan as some base fitness before you start half marathon training plan. So Recognize where you're at, create some sort of plan and framework. Now, I used to like to look up a half marathon training plan for beginners, as an example, and I would then tailor it to fit my schedule. I have a full-time job. I have another part-time job. I have family life and social events and a dog and lots of different responsibilities. And so I understand that it's not always realistic to hit print on a plan, tape it on the fridge, and follow it to a T for 12 plus weeks. Things happen. You get sick, you travel. That is okay. If you miss a workout, do not stress about it. Missing 1 or 2 or 3 workouts in that long of a time is really not the end of the world. What you don't want to miss, if possible, are those longer runs where you're slowly increasing your weekly mileage. But back to creating a plan that works for you. I like to get kind of a framework from a couple of different trusted sources, and then I create my own spreadsheet of a calendar and plug in which days of the week I want to be a long run day, which days of the week I want to be a rest day, which days of the week I want to be cross training instead of running, which days I want to work on speed or tempo. So all of that could seem overwhelming at first. That's why it's helpful to find a plan online or to find a running coach to help you through all of this. Once you have that plan and you've catered, actually, I don't want a long run on Sundays. I have Fridays off, so I want my long run to be on Fridays. Once you kind of schedule out what's going to work best for your personal schedule, is it a morning run? Is it a lunch run? Is it an evening run? Maybe it's different for different days. Figure that out for yourself. Then I do like to print the plan off and tape it on my fridge. And then day by day, I can check off what I've done. Then I can mark my progress. It helps me feel good after a day where I inevitably have a really crummy run. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? Who do I think I am? I cannot run this distance. I couldn't even run 3 miles this morning. That will help bring you back to a headspace where you're like, okay, this was one off day. I've seen all of these different days where I've accomplished the goal I've set out to do. Now, there are plenty of days that I X out and I write in what I ended up doing for a workout instead of what I had programmed. That's back to the be flexible and be realistic. It is okay if your plans change a bit. Just try to generally have a plan to follow so that you feel set up for race day mentally and you're confident, but also physically to avoid injury. Next, cross train. It might sound silly to plan in days where you intentionally do not run when you're training for a race where you'll be running a lot of miles, but cross training is so important to mix into running. You guys know by now, if you've been listening or you've been following along on Instagram, that I love Pure Barre. I teach there, and I think it's an amazing way to cross train for running. Maybe you have a different type of movement you like to cross train with. That is up to you, but make sure you find something that is going to target the muscle groups that you use when you're running to help strengthen them in ways other than running. This will support you when you start to get up in the miles, or if you're running a super hilly course, for instance, and you need that extra strength in your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves. So make sure you're finding some movement to target those with resistance and with weight. Now, it also helps avoid injury. So one, overuse of running can cause injuries. If you're pounding the pavement day in, day out, not taking any breaks to do cross training, that can increase your risk for injury. But if you're also not building up the strength in the muscles that you're working, that can increase injury risk as well. So cross training helps with both of these things. Nutrition, fuel your body, pre-run, post-run, and during the run. This is so important. This is one that took me years to figure out. And to be honest, the first time I really feel like I kind of nailed it for the most part was at the Houston Marathon in 2024. So it was years and years and years of distance running before I really figured this out. I used to run completely fasted, and spoiler alert, GI distress. You need some fuel in your body. I was also so exhausted and fatigued, and my times were so much slower because I had no glycogen stores to pull from when the effort got really tough. So fueling beforehand, super important. I like to use graham crackers or the honey stinger waffles. Those are both great sources of fuel. You want quick, easy carbs that your body can convert into fuel quickly. This is different from typical nutrition where you want to have that steady release of fuel and have it keep you satiated for a long time. This is meant to be sports performance nutrition. It should be quick, available carbs. I'm sure there are 10 million other options online that you could find. Toast, bagel, oatmeal, many things that you could use to fuel before your run. So if you do it once with one thing and it doesn't go well, don't give up. Keep trying things out. It takes time for our bodies to regulate and get used to having substance in our stomachs when we go on a run. Especially if you're going out for a really fast, hard effort, sometimes your GI system is going to be under distress. So it takes training, just like your legs and your muscles need training for these long runs, your stomach needs that training as well. So stick with it. When you get over that hump, I promise it will make you feel so much better and it will help you improve your distance and your pace in the long run. Pun intended. Okay, fuel during the run. I've been through many iterations of this as well. First, I never fueled on the run. So you can imagine I was bonking, I was tanking like crazy when I was depleting my glycogen stores. Then I decided, okay, I only want super clean fuel. So I'm going to use straight honey because that's sugar, which is carbohydrates, and that will help fuel me. Once again, massive GI distress, would not recommend. These performance nutrition items that these companies create are popular for a reason. They spend a lot of time and a lot of resources creating these tools for a reason because they're supposed to be easy on your stomach and quick carbs ready for you to use on the run. So the first fuel that I really started taking in on the run after the honey debacle was the honey stinger chews. They're like little gummies. Those were all I could get down for a while. And that's okay. Use what you can until you can work your way up to other things that may end up being better for you. So I use those on the run. Obviously, you need to be really careful about these. They could be a choking hazard. So maybe you walk while you're chewing them and then you keep running. But that is an option. Then I finally found some gels that I could get down and keep down. About a year and a half ago, I used the goo gels. I have found through a lot of trial and error that I prefer the dessert flavored ones. So you guys know I love a good smoothie. I thought for a long time I wanted fruity gels, and I could tell myself in my head that these were like a little bit of a smoothie. I tried a lot of brands and a lot of fruit flavors that I could not stomach at all. So keep trying, because finally I found that the goo chocolate s'mores and birthday cake flavors are the two flavors for whatever reason that do best for me. I like to tell myself that I'm just eating a spoonful of frosting, and that mentally helps it go down easier for me as well. I've tried some of the caffeinated gels. To be honest, they again gave me GI distress. You can certainly experiment with that, but I would just say experiment far out from race day and keep practicing until you can hone in what works well for you and what doesn't. Next time I have a marathon training cycle, I do plan to try to reintroduce some caffeinated gels mixed in because I know there are a ton of performance benefits with caffeine, and I do have some time goals I would like to achieve in the future. I just have to keep practicing that and figuring out the right balance for myself. So we're all still learning here, but find some sort of fuel on the run that works for you. And then post run, I'm sure you guys have heard the like rule of thumb, get in protein within an hour after a hard workout effort. And I'm here to reiterate that. I am not always great at getting protein in anytime, especially right after a hard run. I don't want to eat anything, to be honest, but it will help your muscles recover so much faster, decrease soreness, increase your ability to get out the door the next day and have another good workout if you fuel and replenish your body with protein, with healthy carbs, with healthy fats, with lots of fruits and veggies, all of those delicious and supporting foods. You really want to get a good meal in after a workout. Kind of my go-to after a long run is a bagel with avocado and having some eggs and a little side brunch salad as well. So that's my go-to. You can find lots of different recipes like that on my website, healthbyhaven.com, or on my Instagram. But that's kind of my go-to for post long run, because then I'm getting in the carbs from the bagel. I'm getting in the healthy fats from the avocado. I'm getting in the protein from the eggs. I'm getting some fruits and veggies because I'm doing a little side salad. I'm usually having a little ramekin full of blueberries as well. So that is my go-to. Just make sure you're getting in those components and fueling your body afterwards. Now, if you know you're going to have to be on the go and you don't have time for a full sit-down breakfast, this is where a protein shake or smoothie can be life-saving. Just make sure if you're buying a pre-made shake, you're really taking a look at that ingredients list as well. And I also love to hard boil a whole dozen of eggs over the weekend to have those ready in the fridge for me too on a work morning. Then I can just have a couple hard boiled eggs on hand and boom, some easy protein and fat right there. Hydration. It's very important. It goes hand in hand with nutrition. So after a run, try not to only go straight to the coffee pot, even though I do love a good hot cup of coffee after a super cold morning run. That is like my ideal morning. But make sure you're having water as well. If you've had a really hard effort, if you're a heavy sweater, if you're a salty sweater, especially if it's summer, you might need to add in some sort of electrolytes into your water as well. There are a million drink mixes out there. I know Element is a fairly clean one. So it's not just salt, it's potassium, it's magnesium, lots of different types of electrolytes to be able to replenish your stores as well. So if you're not getting that in through your food, make sure you're looking at some sort of electrolyte mix to help hydrate you during and after your run as well. Gear. This is the fun part for me. I will not harp on it too long because I could talk all day about running gear. And again, if you want specific recommendations, please do message me. But the most important thing, besides ensuring you have good fitting gear for the right weather and things that are going to be comfortable and not chafe you, is shoes. And even though I love some good running fashion, it is so important to get fitted for shoes that actually work for the shape of your foot and the gait of your run versus what looks cool, what's popular, what's in style, what your favorite running influencer is wearing. None of those things matter if they aren't going to support you and if they're going to injure you somehow in the long run. So go to your local running store. Have them do a free gait analysis. They're going to watch you walk. They're going to watch you run. They're going to look at the profile of your feet. What does your arch look like? Do you pronate? All those things that are going to go into what shoe they fit you in. If they're fitting you in shoes and they do not feel right to you in the store, they certainly will not feel right to you after runs. So be vocal, stand up for yourself. If they're like, this should be perfect and it doesn't feel perfect, keep trying stuff until it does. And if you have a good running store, they will typically take a return, even if you've run on them a few times and you're like, nope, this doesn't work for me. So check with them on their policy with that as well. I personally rotate through several pairs of running shoes. You do you. Find a good daily trainer. And then once you feel good with that, if you want to start experimenting with some other types, you could certainly do that. Okay, find community. This might seem silly because running does seem like quite a solitary sport, but running with friends and with family makes it so much more fun on the days that you don't want to get out the door. Maybe it's raining. Maybe it's the dead of winter and it's 20 degrees outside. I looked at the weather next week. It's supposed to be 19 degrees one morning. That is cold. It's dark in the winter. It's hard to get out of the covers sometimes. So if you find a local running club, if you have a friend that you meet every Tuesday at 6 a.m. to run with, if you meet your brother on the track every Thursday morning, whatever it may be, having that little extra accountability on the days that you're just like, oh, why am I doing this? That will help. And on the fun days, it's just that much more fun when you have someone that you're running with. Maybe even if it's a friend that lives across country and you guys have picked a race to do together, you're texting each other pictures from your run. That is a good motivation. And it's so much more fun to celebrate with somebody at the finish line. If you don't have anybody in your corner that you can run with, nobody's interested. That's okay. I do a lot of solo runs as well. You can find people, the beauty of social media now, that are interested in the same things that you are. Message me. I will cheer you on along your journey to your half marathon. You can find running influencers. You can follow professional runners. Find these stories that motivate you and inspire you. There's so much on social. There's articles. There's books. Some of my favorites. I read this book every single marathon training cycle. Let Your Mind Run by Dina Castor. I think it's such a good motivator. It's all about the positive mindset and running and digging deep and flipping the negative to the positive when things get tough. I love that one. Choosing to Run by Des Linden and The Longest Race by Kara Goucher. I got those books last Christmas. Love them as well. Would recommend them. There are a million more out there that you could read for inspiration and motivation. Podcasts. Believe it or not, there are a million running podcasts. This one has many episodes focused on running, but I am not the only podcast in the world. I also consume podcasts. I love Nobody Asked Us by Des and Kara. That is two former Olympians talking about their running. I love the Allie on the Run show. She interviews tons of inspiring guests. I love the Believe in the Run podcast. They just keep things funny if you want to listen to them while you're running. They also have great guests on. There are lots of others. I would always love your recommendations, by the way, but find those stories, whatever outlet you want to, that will motivate you and inspire you. Maybe you volunteer at a local race or you go out and you cheer on the sidelines of a race for a friend. I am telling you those things, watching people cross the finish line. Everyone has some sort of story when they get there. Everyone pushes through hard sections of races. It is so inspiring. That will get you jazzed up, I promise. And lastly, have fun. This is supposed to be fun. No one is forcing you to do this. At the end of the day, you have to choose it for yourself if that's something you want, and try to enjoy it. Enjoy the journey. The race is one day. Everything leading up to it, while every single run may not be fun, the overall challenge and then that overall feeling of accomplishment should truly bring you joy. Okay. If you have more questions, please let me know. I love chatting running. Hope you guys get to pick a really fun race. I also am happy to provide recommendations on ones that I have run and enjoyed, but hope this brings you some inspiration, some motivation. Maybe it gave you that little kick in the pants. If you've been thinking about doing it, know that I am your biggest cheerleader. There is nothing special about me. I just decided I wanted to do it and I made it happen. And it's not always easy. And sometimes you have to make choices about things. But if you decide you really want it for yourself, you are deserving of it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. You're going to crush your race. I'm so excited for you. Have a happy, healthy day. Good luck on race day. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.